Hey guys, I am having starter problems on my truck. Turn the key and it's not starting. So basically it sounds like this. Just listen for a click. I've got my passenger door open because the starter's on that side and that's where the click is coming from. But I'm just going to show that on the video. I'm just going to turn the key. Just listen for a click. So it clicks whenever I turn the key. Clicks again. Should start in a second. Come on. Well, anyway. Hasn't done it this many times before. I guess it's good for the video. If you're stuck somewhere, you can try knocking on the starter a little bit. Alright. Now I probably flooded the engine a little bit. Not flooded, but sprayed too much fuel because depending on how the engine is designed, I had trouble starting it just then. Because every time I turn the key, the computer is told to spray a little bit of fuel into the engine to help it with starting. So that time I turned the key 10 times, and I actually smell fuel right now. So I turned the key about 10 times, and every time it was spraying fuel into the engine. So it made it a little bit more difficult to start. But just once that starter spins like that, if you are having this problem, you're having that one click and you're turning the key, you can even have, so I've had people, when I've had this problem in the past with other cars, I've been looking at somebody else's car, when they're stuck somewhere, have them, or worst case scenario, like knock on the starter, but have somebody, have like a rhythm to when like every other second or something, when they turn the key, you'll have that click. So you're turning the key and you've got that click like every 2 seconds, and at the same time, on that same time when they're trying to turn the key, have a friend or somebody knock on the starter the same time somebody's turning the key. The reason I say every other second is just to keep the parts inside from getting hot, because when electricity is trying to flow, you're going to have heat built up. So don't just hold the key down if it's clicking like that, because it's not good on the starter. So you want to wait a little bit. But I know it's a starter, but if you're not hearing the click like I am when you turn the key, like this is a manual transmission. So in the manual transmission, you'll check the clutch switch. On this one, I've got a clutch start cancel switch, so that it's 4-wheel drive. So I mean, I can press the clutch start cancel switch, that lights up. But anyway, this switch basically bypasses the need to press the clutch pedal, just in case I have to, if I'm stuck somewhere, and I want to use the brake and the gas at the same time, but I can't put my foot on the clutch. That's why they have this clutch start cancel button. So check these things. In automatic transmission, you're going to have it's what's called the different manufacturers call it different things, but it's the neutral safety switch, I think is what Toyota calls it. Park safety switch, or whatever. But basically, the car will only start in park or neutral. So if something is kind of out of alignment, then you can shift. You can kind of move the shift lever between park or into neutral or something like that. But it basically keeps the car from starting in drive. So you can't turn the key if you have it in drive, and if something is out of alignment on the transmission a little bit, then you'll be trying to start it while you have it in park. But the little switch is kind of sensing that it's in drive, something like that. But other things to check. Later on, I'm going to go in the video. I'm going to go over how to rebuild the starter. Once my starter kit comes in the mail, it's going to be the second half of this video. Later on, I'm going to join these two videos together. But it's just negative and positive, obviously. But if you don't know that, then black is negative, red is positive. Get some kind of a voltmeter, borrow one from a friend, and then connect. Ask somebody what the right setting you're supposed to put it on, but it should be, it should say 20 volts DC, or 20 VDC on the selector setting, and then connect the black probe to the negative, the red probe to the positive, and then you should see around 12.5 volts. If your voltage is too low coming off the battery, then it won't start. But you should see around 12.5 volts when it's off, and around 13.5 to 14 volts whenever it's running, when the alternator is charging the battery and it's recharging it. So, but I know the starter on this one is on this side. It's actually down there. Can't see it there. Can I see it? Yeah. Okay. I can see the starter from this side. So basically, it's that cylindrical thing right in the middle of the screen. It's black. It's got the silver on the left side, and it's got the orange sticker around it. I haven't looked closely at this one, but usually they'll have 2 bolts holding them in. 2 or 3 bolts. Sometimes there's 3. Most of the time there's 2 bolts. There's one on either side holding it in. And you'll want to disconnect the power from your battery. You can just disconnect the negative cable from your battery. That way, because you have a very large power cable that's going down, that's connecting to the starter. So when you disconnect that, you don't want it to arc on something. You'll blow a fuse or something like that. So it's not a good idea. You can eliminate all of that. You can eliminate all those potential problems just by simply disconnecting the battery, disconnecting one of the battery cables. So pull the starter out and then jump to later on in this video. I've got a link on the side to show the starter rebuild kit. Me rebuilding the starter on this so that I won't have this problem. Another thing you would check if you're not hearing that click when you turn the key. I've got the negative cable in the way of the cover. Okay, so I'm looking at this cover and these thin rectangular ones. These thin rectangular boxes are fuses. So that's, these are fuses. Where it says 10 and 15, it's upside down. And that white thing is a fuse puller. So you'll use that to pull out the fuse. You can check your fuses. This one, I don't have a starter fuse on the cover. The starter fuse must be in the other fuse box, but you'll have an ignition fuse. It'll just say IGN or something like that. And that is for the ignition switch. So you can check that fuse. Behind that fuse, you're going to have this. This is a relay, and this where it says starter in that box. That's that white box that says starter is actually a relay. And what I've done, some cars will have they'll have a heater relay, and it's the same part number as a starter relay. So if you're stuck somewhere, you can switch. You can pull out your heater relay. Like this one just says starter, and it's a little hard to come out. But I'm looking at it, and these are obviously, this diagram is on the cover. Sometimes they're inside the cover, but it shows you where the starter relay is. So I'm looking at that, and there's an open spot beside it. So I'm looking in my little fuse relay box, and there's an opening here. So that's what that is. And then starter is right beside it, so it's this. So you pull your relay out, and if you have time, you can go and you can buy another relay. You can look up, people have videos on how to check a relay. So you can, oh come on, this thing is in there. Doesn't help that my hands are sweaty. Okay, so right now it's just sitting in there, and as you can see, there's this little diagram on the top. If you don't really know what this means, basically, this is this is kind of symbolic of an electromagnet. And this little thing that looks like a door or a gate, we'll just call it a door for this video. That line that's sticking out, that would connect 3 and 5, that closes whenever this little electromagnet is energized. So 1 and 2 is showing what these two are. So this 1 and 2 connection is between these two 1 and 2 numbers, and this 3 and 5 is this thing that's open. And when it's closed, so when this circuit is closed, when this little door shuts, then 3 and 5 are connected, and your starter will spin. So if you're stuck somewhere, you can't get it started, take a wire, take something, preferably something that's kind of thick, and connect pins 3 and pins 5. Different relays are going to be different. Not all of them are organized are set up like this, but pins 3 and pins 5, like I said, it goes like that. That's the orientation that the relay sits. So 3 and 5, this is going to be 5, and this is going to be 3. So you would connect these two momentarily, and you'll hear the starter spin. If you don't hear the starter spin, if you hear the same click that I heard when I was turning the key, oh, by the way, whenever you do that, you will absolutely have to have your car in neutral or park if it's an automatic. If it's a standard, you will need it in neutral with the emergency brake pulled. The last thing you want is to connect this, because basically it bypasses all the safety systems are on this circuit that 1 and 2 are on. So your ignition switch is going to go through circuits 1 and 2, and so is your clutch safety switch. So whenever you press the clutch pedal down, or in an automatic car, whenever you press the brake, or whenever you have it in park or in neutral and you start it. So yeah, got the relay back in. So yeah, just make sure it's in neutral, and that way your car's not going to drive off and slam into whatever's in front of you. Because if you connect those two pins, pins 3 and 5, and you don't have it in neutral, so you have it in drive or you have it in reverse for whatever reason, then your car will drive on its own. It will start up on its own by connecting these pins. It will start up. I guess not on its own because you're connecting the pins, but you connect these pins, and then next thing you know, it's going to be driving forward, and you're going to run into whatever's in front of you. So be safe. Make sure it's in neutral. So yeah, other things you would have is a starter fuse or ignition fuse. So whenever you turn the key, it's going to go through the ignition fuse, and that I think on this one it's in the dash. It's under the dash in the other fuse box. But look for that, and check the starter fuse. Make sure it's not blown. But stay tuned for the rest of the video where I go through on the starter rebuild if you want to learn how to rebuild the starter. The kit's $10, $20 I think after shipping, so, and that's to Hawaii. But yeah, it's pretty easy, and you don't have to spend $150 on a starter, and $20 instead.
Alright, so this is the starter from it's a 95 Toyota pickup truck. Alright, here I have the starter contacts. I've already taken it apart. Basically, I'm just gonna replace these contacts. Came in the mail today, and pretty easy, pretty straightforward. So yeah, I've already loosened these 3 screws. They're here. I just cracked them loose. They're 8mm, and then they have the Phillips head in them. So after I cracked them loose, I just used a screwdriver to get them out. But I had to tap on it a little bit on the underside. Let's just put a flat head against this plate. And forgive me for not knowing the terminology of all this stuff. Yeah, I didn't really bother on looking it up. It doesn't matter that much if you can see it. Yeah. So these are contacts. This is a plate. But I've already tapped this loose, and you could tell where it was like arcing here. It was kind of, you get some little soot buildup on the metal, so just wipe that off. But it smells burned. So basically all I'm going to do is you just take this out. You should take note of, it's not like it's a lot of stuff. It's magnetic. It's not like there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of parts in the area that we're working. By the way, I've got this supported, it's sitting on the gears, on the, like where my hand is, and I have 2 sockets, 2 deep sockets underneath it, just supporting it on each side, so that way I can hold it upright. And yeah, but this rubber seal didn't come with my starter set. This thing it's drenched in oil, but you can tell when you look at it. This is a contact on the other side, and you don't take this one out. You're going to be taking this one out. So it's 14mm. So I'm just going to loosen it up. I've already loosened it. Sorry, but yeah, just gonna take it off. And take note of the direction, the order that all these parts are in. Whenever you place them, I'm actually gonna use this nut again, because it's just a nut, and as long as the contact's clean, as long as the contact point is clean, where you bolt down the main positive feed. It's just I'm using this one because this one's too thin. It's like half the thickness. So tightening it down, you can tell, like whenever it sits inside of this, tightening it down, I don't really like. You can, but I can't really get it as tight as I would like to get it. So then off comes this little curved washer. Puts a little bit of pressure on that nut. And then this has an O-ring inside of it. There. So I'm just pulling the O-ring off. These are all the old parts. I'm just setting them to the side. If for some reason these parts are clean, you do want to keep them away from the new parts. So look at this. Look at how this is just melted away. I mean, smell it. It smells burned. This is what was yeah. Actually smells. It's actually a good burn smell. It's not a bad burn smell. Yeah. But so the way that these were set up, so it was like this, the O-ring went there, washer was on top, and then you had this nut. So just to make things easier, I'm going to lay it out the same way. It's the nut I'm not going to use. And this goes. See, this actually, it's a different shape, but it's the same thing as this. This one actually broke when I was pulling it off. It's just a little plastic piece. You can reuse this if you want. It's just a plastic guard that basically, this cannot touch this because the shell of this is grounded. It's grounded to the engine. It's bolted into the engine, and this is positive. It's a positive post. So whenever it goes through the middle, it's got to have a lot of shielding to keep it away from everything that it's not supposed to touch. So like that. There. Yeah, I should clean this. I don't want to. I have too much. My engine's pretty dirty, so I'm just gonna wipe this. And then you want to clean. Like, see, I've got a lot of greasy buildup on this. When these get dirty, there's not a very solid electrical connection. So you just want to clean this off a little bit. But that way you'll have a more solid electrical connection whenever the starter is engaged. So this starter was actually pretty hard to get out. By the way, I should have mentioned this in the beginning, but most of these starters should be the same. This rebuild kit actually is for most Toyota vehicles. There's a long list. I'm going to put in a little link in the description. But yeah, there's a long list of vehicles that this kit will work with. New vehicles, old vehicles, you know, it's just a really long list. So check the list out, see if your Toyota is on it, and yeah. But the thing is really dirty inside. I don't like how greasy it is inside of this thing. But alright, so I have the new one, and that O-ring actually goes on this side. You can reuse the old post if you can get it out. Mine was fused to, yeah, I don't know. Mine was fused. These two pieces were fused together on mine, so I don't know if they did that from the factory or if just the heat from trying to start this thing fused it together. Yeah, you can reuse this too if it's not too worn out. If for some reason the contact set that you get is worn, you can reuse this. This is covered in oil too, but yeah. So that's, you can reuse that. New O-ring. And this is the same piece as this. It's just this one's broken. So where'd the other little plastic piece go? Wherever that went. Yeah. It's like that. You can reuse this, you can reuse this, either one you want. Just, I prefer newer parts. And then this, just gonna put this on. And then putting the clean side up, dirty side down, because that's where the contact's going to be. Mix the contact on the clean side. You don't have to get this crazy tight. This has to be decently tight. So, and I didn't even try to get it as tight as I can get it with this. I just tried to get it really good and snug. So, snug enough to where it's not going to move very easily. And this is fairly clean. Grease is gone off of it. Back on the it's hard to press in, but yeah. Where did my supports? These guys are here for support. They support me. Alright, well actually they support the starter. Ha ha. Okay, so got this back together. This little clip fell off, but it actually goes under the wire. Back on there. So you can follow this same basic procedure for, of course, the thin flimsy rubber is going to come off. I don't even know if this is necessary to have, but I'll just put it back anyway. So you can follow this for most of the Toyota starters are going to be about like this. So they would look, I mean obviously they're going to be bigger, smaller, different sizes, but basically they are going to look like this. And it's just a matter of being careful when you take it apart. This is what you're replacing. It's the contacts. That's it. Should take 5 minutes or so. Put it together. But, oh sorry, the whole process should take could take about 5 minutes if you're somehow rushed to get this done. It's actually pretty quick. Taking these off, removing the plunger on the inside, spring, all that stuff, taking the cap off, knocking this, pounding this, knock it loose, loosening this all the way, pulling the contacts out, and then putting it back together. Okay, so I just put the starter back in, and I'm just gonna start it. So it's got the it's a new starter, not the new starter, it's the old starter with the new rebuild kit, the new contact set. Turn the key, starts right up, turn it off.
turn it on, starts right up. So I didn't get a new starter. All I did was replace the contacts, and it's good. So thanks for watching, and subscribe for, I don't know, more stuff like this.